board acknowledgements and announcements. On January 21st, this board invited all board members to participate in a tour of the new wing of the high school. 5 board members were present. No business was conducted during this time. Okay, so representatives, Mr. Khan, will you go first? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ian Khan. I'm an 8th grader and I'm student council president. Here's what's happening at Maple Avenue. We are in the midst of our pride value, integrity. Integrity means acting in a way you know to be right and kind in all situations. All students participated in a lesson on integrity in their social studies class. We sold Valentine's Day bears with artificial roses and candy grams last week. All proceeds will benefit our student council and PBIS funds. They will be delivered to homeowners this week before the long weekend. Another Spirit Week is upon us. Today was Daisy Day, then we had Pink Out Day, Twin Day, and Heart Day. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Mr. Hoffman of the high school.
Good afternoon. Rowan Fitzgerald has fallen ill, so I'll be representing the high school. Student Council is planning on hosting spring activities such as a Valentine's bake sale, Spring Spirit Week, and a potential spring pep rally. They will also be attending the Regional Leadership Conference. Tanner Rock is going to break the LHS school record for career wrestling wins. He has also earned 100 career pins this year. Littlestown won 2 district matches this season as well. Astronomy Club is planning their field trip to the Maryland Science Center to visit the planetarium. The Scholastic Arts Club has students who won the Scholastic Keys for their submissions. The winners are Clara Ring, who won the highest key for her digital piece, Cold Death's Light, a silver key for another digital art piece, Easton of Gold, and an honorable mention for a digital art piece, Marcy in a Gray House. Penny Huber won 2 silver keys for a recycled art sculpture titled Sea Made of Plastic, and a crochet sweater called Stories of the Sky. LHS visual arts classes are participating in the Adams County Art Council All-County Show. 25 LHS artists have works displayed in the Art Council Gallery. Open night was the 7th and runs till the 28th. The gallery is open 10 to 7 daily. FFA is caring for 2 crossbred calves in the shop. 12 members will attend the State Leadership Conference in Harrisburg, and 3 members have worked on restoring a 41 John Deere V tractor. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for us before they sneak out? Okay, hearing none. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you. You're good.
Okay. Mr. Becker, excuse me, Dr. Becker.
All right, so first this month I would like to publicly thank our counseling department for everything that they do, and whether or not everybody was aware of it, this past week was the National School Counselor Appreciation Week. So all week long. So the multifaceted nature, I feel like, of the counseling job often isn't taken into account or understood sometimes. We kind of see it in one vein and all the things that they do, and I know that the team at the high school, the things that they do are amazing, and they make it seem very simple when in fact it's very, very layered and a difficult job. And once again, just would like to thank them for all the work that they do on a regular basis in keeping that school what it is. I would also say I'd like to happily report that things are seeming, may I even say, somewhat routine at the high school again to some degree. At this point, after some upheaval with the move and the things that went into the preparation for that and all the work that the teachers and staff needed to do to get that to occur. We've been able to get more in the role of what the things are that we know we need to be doing and preparing for, and data meetings, for example, have been held with our tested subject teams and administrators So Mr. Preetz and myself spending some time with each of those teams, beginning to understand the current processes and the things that they have been doing, and starting to get past the surface level of what our expectations and asks will be based on some of that. And I will say that from those meetings, the teachers truly are professionals in terms of the use of data, so the mining of the data and the use of it. I think Dr. Berryman would say the same, and she kind of filled me in beforehand saying we're in a good place, and she's not wrong, right? So the things that they showed us and the mapping of the data and the way that they do so, and pretty much, in my opinion, is exceptional in almost all aspects of each team. So continue to work with them just to make small changes because it's impressive what they're doing. Also, teachers have been sharing their progress on their goals for the students for the year. Been impressed by the honest self-reflection that they've shown in that process. So in reading through when we receive a mid-year, the recognition of the need to pivot at times and the things they need to do to make sure that they're getting the results that they're trying to get to. Finally, sticking with the theme of appreciation weeks and days, Friday is the School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. I don't know if everybody knows that. And while not the exact title, yes, it's every day, but we're actually making it official. Since it's not the actual title, still, I'd like to personally, and on behalf of the entire high school, thank Mr. Lorenz for his dedication. We are very, very fortunate to have him here. And I know on the occasions where he is needed at the high school, it takes roughly 30 seconds, it feels like, to get from the middle school he's there up to us, and does great things in order to help us. So we, again, very fortunate to have him, and we'd like to thank him directly. That is what I have tonight, if you have any questions.
Aren't you off on Friday?
Yeah.
So you choose the day that.
I didn't plan it, yeah. So it's a national movement.
You got all special day.
No.
Okay.
Love your safety officer.
Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Becker? Hearing none, thank you. And we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Ms. Gordon, you're up.
Good evening. So I think a couple of months ago, maybe even last month, I talked a little bit about how this past summer when I was building the master schedule at Maple Avenue, I made an effort to ensure that all of the math and English teachers had the same planning period as their counterparts. So 6th grade math teachers planned together, 7th grade English teachers planned together, so on and so forth. And they had the expectation of meeting together at least twice a week to review data and plan for the coming weeks and lessons ahead. So that's been going really well. But one thing that we found in our journey to create a consistent experience for students across, like it doesn't matter which 7th grade math teacher you have, that it's a consistent experience, was that they didn't have the opportunity to watch each other teach. So here these people were planning together and talking about what they were going to do for their students together, but were making large assumptions about what was happening in each other's classrooms and what it looked like. You know, when this teacher said, well, I'm going to do this, and I said, well, I'm going to do that, but what does it really look like? So I decided that it would be really important for those teachers specifically to observe their exact counterpart in action. And so they've done that 3 times already, and we'll do it at least once, if not twice more this school year. And so I wanted to do something a little unorthodox. I want to read to you something. I'm going to read it to you directly as it's written. This is an email thread between 2 teachers. It's completely unsolicited. They put me on the thread because they wanted to share with me what their discussion was. I do have their permission to share this with you this evening. I will not tell you who it is, but I think this is a genuine and authentic example of how powerful those classroom visits were for them as an example, but for all the teachers. So just bear with me. I just want to read it to you exactly as they wrote it. So the first teacher, teacher number 1, says, thank you, and again, this is to her counterpart, or his counterpart teacher. Thank you for allowing me into your classroom today. Here are some things I'd like to steal from you and discuss further in collaborative planning. 1, the color coding of text-dependent analysis. Have you had them do that with their work? I noticed their revisions are due next week, and I was wondering if they will be using that document as well as the one you shared at the ELA department meeting to help with their revisions. I also liked how you supported the color coding with the new prompt and the new chart. One student even used the color to answer your question, I thought that was great. Now, I truly have no idea what they're talking about here, this color coding, okay, but she thought it was a great idea. Number 2, free Write Friday. That's a great way to get students to feel like what it is to write for 5 minutes. Will you be increasing the time to build their stamina? Will it be like in minutes? For example, next week or next month, is it a 6-minute free write? This is something I'd like to discuss, and I'm not sure it would be accepted, but I'd love to be able, for the next common assessment text-dependent analysis, to give students 2 days to do it, so they could try new ways we've been giving them. From the Pennsylvania Department of Education suggestion to have them write it on paper, then type it. Then we can use your chart. I know you're going to have them use it eventually on their own, but it would be cool if we could see next month what still needs refining before it's PSSA time. Thanks again for allowing me to come in and to be such a great innovator. I appreciate learning with and from you. So that was one teacher to another. And that teacher, then teacher number 2, responded saying, so I have had them highlight their writing for various things we were working on. This goes back to that color coding thing she was talking about, but not directly related to text-dependent analysis part. This is all something totally new that we just started this week because they were just not getting it the way I taught it last year, and I ended up totally scrapping the way I was teaching it. It's working well though. That is how I'm planning on teaching it from here on out. My plan for next year is to start with a lot of support, providing evidence, helping to break it apart, giving them the chart and sentence stems, and then slowly backing off until they can do it totally on their own with just a prompt and a blank piece of paper, like it's the PSSAs. I'm figuring if I started earlier, we can have the bulk of it finished, and then have time to work on it sounding less robotic and with better transitions, etc. I started Free Write Friday a few weeks ago to build their stamina, and although they complain, I think they love it. Every time so far, I've had kids ask for 1 more minute, LOL. And they're always excited to share what they wrote about. Yes, my plan is to increase it a bit, but not to where they're writing for like 10 minutes straight because there's just not enough time in the class period, unfortunately. I also like how you ran your small groups in class today. I feel like your conversations were meaningful and genuine. You have good connections with the kids and they responded well to you in small groups. And teacher number 1 responds, thank you. I'm hoping small group instruction will really help bridge the gaps. So the reason I read all that to you is just because I thought like it was an authentic representation of the power of teachers collaborating and being able to see each other teach, and with no specific prompt or direction from me, the sort of dialogue they were having all about what they were doing to refine their instructional practices to meet their students' needs. And it made my heart just explode, and I just wanted to share it with you because I thought it was a really powerful testimony to just when you put professionals together to give them what they need, they can work hard to figure out what our students need. They just need the opportunity to do it. So that's all I have to share today.
I think it's great that they are open to each other's
Yeah.
styles and
Yeah.
stuff. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
And these are not, and again, this really doesn't have anything to do with it except to say, these are not 2 teachers who have classrooms that are even nearly identical to each other. Very different approaches. So that when we're trying to think about having consistent programming in a grade level, to hear this sort of conversation just helps to show that we're on the road to that, and they're both invested in each other and in our students.
Mrs. Goldman, just a question. You said that they've observed each other a couple times over the school year.
Yes.
How many times are you planning on having them do that?
So, excuse me, they've observed, last week was the 3rd time. There's a 4th time already planned. If we have time, I'd like to add a 5th, but there's definitely 4.
And logistically, how are you able to free up that teacher?
Yeah, so that's been some fancy footwork. So we have our building sub, Miss Kingsborough, and so I pick a day that I look forward in the calendar to a day that maybe we don't have a lot of people absent and that I can use her. And what she would do is like cover you first period so you can watch me, and then cover me second period so I can watch you. And she just kind of like bounces through her day, covering different teachers so they can spend an entire period watching each other.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Moran?
So I really just want to echo and say, I don't want to speak for Nate,
professionalism, the performance of their staff and their personnel is something that's really just evident throughout the school district. I've been fortunate to be here long enough and be in multiple locations and in different roles that we see that something that just applaud those. And again, congratulations for the great work you guys are doing with your staff. We too down at the ACES are really working with their teachers and some of those mid-year reflections that both of them have alluded to. We're focusing on our data analysis and reflections and really focusing on our what we call our child chat discussions and conversations. And that's a natural thing that occurs each year and occurs at this time of the year just because we're at that midpoint as we're coming into the second half of the school year. What that does allow for us is to really set that tone for what the remaining part of the school looks like. Again, it helps us to make informed instructional decisions based on that feedback that we have gathered from our students and from our staff and our families as we move forward. Today, particularly, in this room here, we were working with some of our science teachers in connection to some of the professional development work centered around our skills that Dr. Grady will share next year on numerous occasions in preparation not only for this year, when our pilot year for skills, but as we go into next year, towards skills will become an official part of their state assessment for that for our fifth graders. They did their PSSA last year, but they're part of the pilot now as fifth graders as we go in. And we also are working with some of our other areas as well, not necessarily today, but over the last few weeks through our ELA and our math, and again, respective grade levels with that. So again, we're just continuing to focus on their curriculum and instruction work centered around their professional development, which again helps us move forward as a building. I do want to share one specific example to go in a little bit of depth, but just to go into it, to share how that experience unfolds for our students. And I'm looking to see Beth's here. I don't see Beth. Okay, so but I just want to give a really a special thank you to the Thunderbolt Foundation for helping to fund this project for us, and obviously our support of our staff in putting this together for our students. So we had the Mobile Ag Education Science Lab come to the school district here this past week, and our kids loved it. I had a chance to go out and experience that myself and watch some of our fifth grade students in action. For those that may not be familiar, it's like a 40-foot mobile classroom that travels throughout the state of Pennsylvania, across the Commonwealth, really bringing an interactive field trip style experience directly to schools and to students in grades K to 8. I know Ms. Golden's building is going, and our students are going to get a chance to experience that here a little bit later in the year. The mobile lab's really equipped to do the following things. It has over 30 STEM-based science experiments and lessons that are available to our students. So again, regardless of whether it was our kindergartners going out or our fifth graders going out, all of those different grade levels have a unique experience for them. It's through a certified teacher, so it's done professionally. All the supplies needed, the hands-on learning experience are there for the students, so it's an all-encompassing piece for them. Each of the science experiments is designed to emphasize a different aspect of agriculture. Okay, so some examples of some of the learning that was taking place there was obviously a focus on Pennsylvania commodities, focus on the environment, focus on biotechnology, food and fiber. So again, a lot of areas that are centered around our STEM-related, agriculture-related fields. One of the great things about this experience is, it's taking the students outside of that classroom, traditional classroom experience, so putting them in a lab component. So where students will work cooperatively to solve a problem as they form a hypothesis centered around the work that they're doing. The students work on collection of data in that process, and we're working to draw conclusions based on that information that they are gaining, and again, focusing on that scientific method of that process. Really excited that each lesson in the Ag Lab really had students focusing on their knowledge and really connecting it to which is an important piece of the Pennsylvania industry centered around agriculture and its impact on us from a daily perspective. And so we were really excited with that opportunity this week. We took some pictures, some that got posted out on our live feed. I'm sure, just as my children did, as other children went home and shared those experiences with their family, Again, showing just how we can bring those resources together, not only from our, for example, our Thunderbolt Foundation, your support as board members, our support as administration, to provide our kids those opportunities and those learning experiences, the same as we do with our teachers, as Courtney alluded to, those professional opportunities to collaborate and dialogue. So giving our students a chance to see that firsthand is tremendous. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Norton?
I do. You mentioned a hydrophonic system. You say you're using it in the elementary school?
So we have two things that we use. Obviously, anytime like here, we brought in the mobile ag, and so there's what I call the verbal description of those types of things. And then obviously we do have our fork farm, which does connect into some aspects of that, that we have hands-on inside of our building that we've been using and I've spoken about before.
How much time do the students spend on doing that kind of stuff?
I don't have that exact number, like, off the top of my head. I know when the mobile app came out, it was a period of 2.5 hours to 45 minutes. The students would go out, and then obviously as we work through the mobile lab, a little bit before the farming side, that occurs on a probably a bi-weekly would be a safer, and that's connected into the specials class that Mr. Lachlan has, our STEM coursework, and then connects that to some of the science lessons that teachers have. Again, depending on the grade level, sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's bi-weekly, depending again on what the subject matters that they're working on.
Are you seeing a lot of enthusiasm for this field from the students?
I can only base it on what I see and observe. When I went out to the mobile lab, every one of those students were engaged. There was probably about 25 students in here. So I think they were excited about their learning and they had a passion for it. The feedback I received from the teacher, as well as our own teachers, but the teacher was mobile lab. Kids were excited. They had a great day with it. And nothing but positive experiences to be shared.
Sounds great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Like always, I appreciate you guys coming. Okay. What are the buttons that I can push or says? Huh? I heard it. Okay. At this time, we recognize members of the public who have signed up to provide comment as stipulated in policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium, state your name, confirm you're a resident or a taxpayer in the district, and topic of discussion for the record. Please direct your comments to the board as a whole, not an individual. We ask that you limit your comment to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be revoked, interrupted, or a recess of the meeting may be called by the chair if the speaker does not observe reasonable decorum and orderly conduct. Thank you. And Ms. Johnson is up.
My name is Suzanne Johnson. I'm a Littlestown resident and my child attends school in this district. As a taxpayer and parent, I am frustrated seeing taxes increase while our students continue to struggle with reading and math. At the last finance meeting, the budget priorities included keeping pace with increases in operational expenses, planning on continued growth despite a continuous decline in enrollment, and keeping new facilities looking new. Perhaps you weren't listening before, so I hope you're listening now as some of you face re-election. When Superintendent Bigger was here, knowing how much the building was going to cost, the goal was to achieve cost savings with building consolidations by reducing positions. Yet that certainly doesn't seem to be a goal anymore, especially with central office positions. For example, adding a food service coordinator and a second security officer, splitting one administrative position into 2 full-time positions, one for maintenance and one for athletics. The building construction was used as a justification for that additional security officer and administrative assistant, but even with construction scheduled to end this fall, these positions persist. For central office and administrative tasks, automation and consolidation need to be explored to more efficiently use resources. And the student incident data clearly demonstrate that a second security officer isn't needed, especially when considering how fast Mr. Lorenz is able to move between our buildings, which are adjacent to each other on a small campus, and the quick response of the Littlestown Police Department, who patrols a small, rural, 1.5 square mile town. This board has continuously approved new spending measures, and then with upcoming elections, you all feign surprise when faced with potential tax increases to cover things I warned you about last year, including new positions, administration raises a year early, buying a new bus when we need to contract out transportation services, and moving nearly all of last year's $3.75 million budget surplus to capital projects instead of setting any of it aside for ACTI, when career and technical education is arguably the most critical investment needed at this time for our students and our community's workforce needs. You were repeatedly told that we'll have to pay over $500,000 per year for 20 or more years for ACTI, and the plans were to gradually increase taxes 1% each year for 3 years to ramp up to that annual commitment. I was ignored when I suggested splitting the budget surplus to ensure funding of both our highest priority capital projects within our district and ACTI instead of fully relying on new tax revenues for ACTI. While you're making funding decisions that seem to prioritize central office, a second SRO, and athletic fields, I'm hearing a reluctance to prioritize critical student needs like career and technical education, and nothing about how to improve student performance. You introduced another automated assessment and instruction tool with iReady this year, and you pushed students into the Thunderbolt Cyber Academy when attendance or bullying become an issue. My daughter's completed plenty of automated lessons, often without learning the skills that she needs because she needs to be taught by a professional, not just another computer program. And it's not just that students and parents wanting more help. Dr. Berryman, when she was the high school principal, and Principal Golden from MAMS has also discussed using a co-teaching strategy with 2 teachers for classes where students need more help. You spent a considerable time developing a new mission and vision statements and mapping curriculum to standards, perhaps attempting to fit square pegs into round holes to continue doing things the same way you've always done them. Are you really making curriculum changes to improve student outcomes, or just repackaging what you've always done despite the fact that student performance has continued to decline for over a decade? Continue to do the things the same way and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity. I've been in the district for over 3 years and watched balanced literacy persist while you slow walk the implementation of the evidence-based science of reading methods, and students continue to fall behind. I truly believe our district does have education professionals that care about our students, but it seems they lack the tools and support they need to be successful. When I'm not seeing improvements in student outcomes, it concerns me when the superintendent talks about the district's own master's program and learning the Thunderbolt way. It seems that our district needs to look to what others are doing to be more successful and lean on external expertise. It is the school board's responsibility to hold each other and administration accountable. You have failed the taxpayers as a whole and me personally when I was harassed and denied my parental rights to protect my child. Now I see a right to know where you again failed to intervene on a student's behalf. You all need to stop covering up for an elected official, putting our district in legal jeopardy by using her position on the school board and in youth sports to create a hostile work environment and harass me and others throughout this community. Several of you need to go, starting with Janelle Ressler.
Ms. Bailey.
Good evening. Nick, that smirk on your face wasn't appropriate. Okay? So I'm here this evening to give public comment, specifically to the board members. Not all of them, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure out what applies to yourself. Let me start with, we teach our students to be respectful. I think we can all agree to that, right? We ask them to be respectful in the classroom, while they're at school, on the buses, during their whole day here at school, on campus. That respect is not just asked for by the students, but it should be demonstrated